Hello everybody, welcome back to another Hof Bergmann Explained video. In our Hof Bergmann Explained video series, we cover all of the important things to know with respect to the Hof Bergmann map for Farming Simulator 25. In today's video, we're going to be talking about goats and sheep. Now overall, goats and sheep are pretty similar to how they are in the base game, but there are a few interesting caveats with respect to Hof Bergmann. Here at the main farm, we do have a small goat and sheep pen just adjacent to our pig and our hay dryer. So if we come up here to this trigger, we can go ahead and purchase some goats or sheep. 53 is going to be our capacity at this location. I'm going to go ahead and just pick up a couple sheep. And then inside of here, we have our sheep pen that extends out the back. We have our food trough here around the back, and there are two ways into this area. We have a gate here, and we have a gate over there. You can see in the lower right corner, we have 1,234 liters worth of meadow grass. So these sheep will graze off of this area if there is grass available. Now, if we come inside, we can see that the small icon down here does mention straw, and the sheep do accept straw, but they don't produce manure. Okay, so they did produce manure with respect to the pre-release version of this map, but manure was removed because pigs right next door do produce manure, and there apparently is a conflict if you have two different animals producing manure here at the same manure heap. So manure has been removed from goats and sheep. You do not need to put straw down unless you want to. If you do put down straw, that's fine. There will be a straw plane that will appear here, but they will not actively produce manure. As far as feeding our goats and sheep, well, our feeding requirements are pretty similar. You can see they're going to accept grass, hay, or clover because clover is available on this map. And we have meadow grass available here at the farm. Right around the corner, we do have a bale storage setup. So this setup will hold a total of 200 bales. And I happen to have some hay and straw already over here. If we want to bring bales out of storage, we come over here to the side. And we can output a straw bale. And we can output a hay bale. If you wish to feed via loose material, well, you could have some hay come out of our hay dryer located right here. And I happen to be using the little hay cart that is available as part of this map in order to transport a little bit of hay over to our goats and sheep. I thought this is a really cool add-on. I do like how it kind of bounces around on our cobblestone farmyard here. And it's going to operate very similar to the wheelbarrow as far as its mechanics. We do have straps also on this. So in theory, you could also strap one or more small square bales to this in order to basically use it. We're going to come over here. We're going to dump by left clicking and pushing up and then down to lower that down, and that's how that particular piece of machinery is going to work. If you wish to use straw or bales, I should say, with respect to feeding, the sheep will also accept bales. As you can see, and right now the full trough is about 3,000 liters. Now at this pen, goat milk and wool are going to spawn under this little lean-to. So here we have individual bales of wool, and then if we had goats here, individual goat milk containers would also spawn here. But this isn't the only place that we have sheep or goats on the map. So if we come back here to our PDA, we have our sheep and goats right here at the main starting farm. If we take a road into town, farmland ID 21 is also a sheep and goat pen. So let's visit that location. Here we also have meadow grass available. We're going to be able to have 118 sheep or goats here. And I'm just going to go ahead and get some goats. Inside we have our food trough and our water for our sheep and goats. Let's use our Fendt 255 GT to water our goats and feed them. And then our hay. So our milk or our wool, depending on what we have here in this pasture, actually is going to appear in this little shed. So here we have a small 500 liter jug of milk. And we're going to take this back to the farm. Now, it's not overly realistic to have 500 liters in this small of a container, but as the changelog mentions, the capacity was increased to 500 liters just to work better with respect to Farm Sim 25's production. I'm sure this was probably a much lower capacity initially, but it became a little problematic with respect to the milk production. One place that we can bring our goat milk is going to be the large dairy that we can purchase. That's going to be located up here just south of Field 40. And I've gone ahead and purchased that for $320,000. We have our 500 liters of goat milk. We're going to deliver that to this location. We have our interactive icon here beside Mr. Dairyman. And then our finished product is going to appear here around the side, and we do also have access to a forklift for loading of our product. If you happen to be using sheep and therefore your output is going to be wool, well, the spinnery is actually right across the street, but the spinnery is not a production, at least as of the 1.0 release. The spinnery is simply a sell point with operating hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're just going to drop off your wool over here where this dude is located. But we also have a small dairy at the main farm. So let's jump back over here to the main farm location. And we'll make our way down to the dairy, which is here beside the cow barn, actually. And from here, we're going to be able to produce goat cheese. So inside this conditioned area, we have our mozzarella ball maker. We'll learn about that when we talk about cows and buffalo. We have our butter machine. We'll learn about that when we talk about cows. And then we have our cheese maker. And we'll learn about that, well, right now. So we'll bring our goat milk over to our cheese maker and just drop it in. And then we can come up here and we will use R to manage our point. And we'll let some time pass. And you'll see that we'll get some goat cheese, which will output right here on the table. We can then, of course, take our goat cheese and sell that at other locations. So let's go and check our prices. We can, of course, sell our wool over at the spinnery. We don't have production for anything here at the wool. With respect to goat cheese, the beer tavern and the village shop, we can sell our goat milk bottled, which we would, of course, get from the bigger dairy at the village shop. We can sell our raw goat milk at the dairy if we didn't own it, at the beer tavern or the village shop as well. Now, of course, there's a couple of different ways of dealing with excess sheep or goats, because the sheep or goats are going to reproduce. And at some point, you're going to fill up both locations. So as your sheep and goats reproduce, you can sell them down here at the animal dealer. This is also where you could purchase them if you'd rather not buy them at the farm locations. And we're going to be using the LST 8.5 specifically for this. And we're going to be able to transport 12 sheep at a time using this particular trailer. Or we could come back here to our farmhouse and we could take our excess sheep and goats to the farm butchery, which we've already talked about. And at that point, we'll be able to take and convert sheep and goats into processed sheep and goat meat, which we then be able to sell at the beer parlor and the village shop. So folks, that is pretty much everything you need to know with respect to sheep and goats here on Hof Bergmann for Farming Simulator 25. Again, this video is focused on version 1.0 of the map. As the map is going to get updated throughout the life of Farm Sim 25, there is great likelihood that sheep or goats might be expanded and things may be slightly replaced or moved around the map. If that should happen, we will be doing a sheep and goat update video as time allows. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the sheep and goat changes for Farm Sim 25 here on Hof Bergmann. Until next time, happy farming.